To Ross Perot, I would do the same. I even threw in a couple of graphs for it. My name is John Biggan. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist. That means I spend a lot of time looking at brains. I think that might be important in Washington this year or around this time. I'm also a teacher. I've taught since about 2005. So this past week has been a rough week for politics, for Americans, for the world, but I want to give you some hope. Because Democrats win on hope. Republicans, they spend a lot of time scaring the crap out of you, and that's how they win. But we win on hope. So I want to show you a map. This is a very simple map. This is this area right here. You'll notice that these are some very gerrymandered congressional districts. They're coupled with some kind of wonky shapes there. This one kind of at the center that's red right now, that's where we are sitting. Now in 2016, this is what this map looked like. It's very, very red. You had a couple of gerrymandered Democratic seats. But with time, just last year, we got a little more blue. And I'm going to show you tonight how in 2020 it's going to look like this. And that's a much prettier picture, I think, than the current one. So we can win. We have won in this district. Beto O'Rourke won by 3.5 points. Just last year. So did Justin Nelson, though. So there were more people than just Beto who won in this district. None of the other statewide candidates did, but these two did. This is changing rapidly, and Kenny only won by 3 points. So in the past, he's won by about 17, 20, that kind of range. Things are moving in the right direction. We can do this in 2020, especially with the Democratic surge for a presidential year. The reason why this is important is not because we want to run up the score. It's not because we just like Team Blue. It's because our values are not currently being represented in Washington. And so I want to talk about some of those values. The first one is that we really are the party of freedom. Don't let anyone tell you that Republicans have a handle on freedom. I was so excited when I heard Mayor Pete say this because for years I've said the reason why I'm a Democrat today is because I was raised a Republican. And I was taught that the thing that we should push for is allowing people to control their lives. As I grew up, I still believed in that, but I realized that Democrats do a whole lot better at it than Republicans do. We also believe that tools are important. You may be looking at this and thinking that tree is not a tool, but I want to tell you a little story. So a few years ago, I was president of my HOA. It's a great job for anybody who's looking for one. And right after I got, we'll say, pushed into it, I asked somebody, I said, look, there's this dead tree that's been out in the front of the area for a long, long time. Why can we not get rid of this? And, oh, well, you've got to go through all the steps. And I said, you know what, screw this. I'm going to go chop the thing down. So I grabbed, so when I first went out there, it did look kind of like that. It was hot and kind of rough. But it really was about that size. So I grabbed my bow saw, grabbed an axe, because I thought I'll be a big manly man. And I did something really manly. I broke the axe. So I went back to the bow saw. And in the 100+ degree heat in Texas, that was not all that much fun, and I wasn't making a lot of headway. I'm sitting there and I'm sawing. Nothing's happening. I'm making a little bit of progress, but it's really, really slow. And then a light bulb went off. There's something better. There's a better tool. There's a chainsaw. So I grabbed a chainsaw. I went on a chainsaw. And I cut that thing down in no time, and we cut it up and gave it out to everybody in the community. The reason why I mention this is because we Democrats know that with the right tools, people can do so much more. We invest in education, we invest in health care, so that people can cut down that tree a whole lot faster. We also, as Democrats, believe in facts, and it pains me as a scientist to stand here and have to say that anyone has to believe in facts, that there's any dichotomy between the groups, that one group believes in alternative facts while the other one believes in facts. I use this one specifically not just because I want to harp on Kellyanne, but because I was at the inauguration. It was me and 4 people. And I can tell you personally, it was not the biggest. But I was also at the Women's March the next day. And that was one of the most hopeful moments that I've ever had. While I had plenty of room to move around at the inauguration, at the Women's March it was about 40 degrees, and I was in a t-shirt because the body heat was able to keep me so warm. I stood about like that for hours on end. We couldn't even get going because there were so many people. So this can happen. We can bring back these values. And we believe in plans. We think that it's good to have a plan. As long as you're not Marianne Williamson, It is good to have a plan. I love people who have plans. That's one of the reasons why I'm running. I got so frustrated by some really great candidates who ran on nothing but personality. I want to know what that person is going to do for me. I want to know why my life will be better, why the lives of my friends, my family, my neighbors are going to be better. So we have plans. And on a regular basis, we see this kind of consistent war on science. Here are just a couple of headlines. You can't really see this from here, but these headlines are all in the past couple of months. It took me about 5 minutes to find them because there are so many. It's overwhelming. It's headlines like, Trump says climate change goes both ways. I had to check because even that one seemed a little far for him. But he's cutting money to renewable energies. He's imposing tariffs on solar, which is killing billions of projects and many, many jobs. There's a constant war on science, and I asked myself years ago, because this happened long before Trump. This isn't new to him, he's just really embraced it. I asked myself, why is this happening? Why in the world are people able to get away with this kind of attack on science? And rather than me telling you, I'm going to let our favorite astrophysicist tell you. So it's true. In fact, if we look, this is that graph for Ross Perot. A whole lot of lawyers, that's the far side. You might be looking at this and thinking, John, you forgot one of them. You forgot to put the data and the numbers in for that one on the far right. That's PhD level scientists. There's one. There's one in all of Congress. There are 7 talk show hosts in Congress and there's one scientist. What does that tell you about our values? But we can change that. So we need to get back to representative government. All of those things that are up there, the law background, the business background, the education background, the military background, all of these things are important, but they are overrepresented. We need to change the backgrounds of the people who are there if we expect anything to change in Washington. We also need representative government, so I figured I'd just look at some numbers here for what this district looks like, what my background looks like, how well it fits. So the median age here is 35.8 years. I happen to be 36. Yeah, so right there, already syncing up. This is the well-educated suburbs. We know that, we live here. 46% have a bachelor's degree or higher. That's considerably higher than the 33% nationwide. Also, the top careers are education, healthcare, science, and then finance and real estate. A lot of people are born in Texas, but a lot are immigrants as well. I as well have a couple of degrees from UT Arlington down the road. We'll talk about that a little bit later. My background, my career is in scientific research, public health, teaching, work with nonprofits. And I'm both a 6th and 3rd generation Texan. Like a lot of us, we have roots here, but we also haven't been here that long, too. Now, if you liked firsts, electing me would give you 3. That would be the first neuroscientist in the history of Congress. Never had a neuroscientist in Congress. Surprisingly, even though the University of Texas at Arlington has 45,000 students on its campus and 140,000 alums in this area alone, there has never been a congressperson from UTA. They've never had a UTA grad in Congress. And this district, over its about 45-year history, has never had a teacher representing the district. We've had lawyers, we've had military personnel, and we've had business people, but never a teacher, so we have a couple of firsts. Now, I told you I like plans. I'm not going to go into all of these plans because that would be a whole lot, and I already talk enough as it is, and Kathy will be cutting me off here pretty soon. So instead, I gave you a little checklist, and if you go to beganforcongress.com/issues, you will see all of this in lots and lots of detail because, like I said, I believe that somebody who wants to represent should tell you what they're going to do for you. So please go and check that out. One thing that I do want to talk about, I taught at TCC Northeast down the road for many, many years. I had a lot of students who missed classes or ended up having to drop because they couldn't find affordable childcare. That's ridiculous. That's bad for them, it's bad for the economy, it's bad for everybody all around. So here's a crazy idea that I'm proposing, and it's already been done in some other places, but very little here, and that is universal on-campus childcare at community colleges. We can fund it through Early Head Start and Head Start money. We can do that along with cities and municipalities to get people the education that they need so that they can get out into the workforce and be in control of their lives. Give them those tools. So that's one of them. Now, if all of this seems a little overwhelming, if you're sitting here looking and you're thinking, man, a congressional district, that's about 800,000 people. They're there. You're going to have 350, maybe 400,000 people voting in the next election. That seems really overwhelming. Just remember the words of Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So, this is what 2020 is going to look like. I hope I've shown you that. Please follow us on Facebook. We also need your time, we need your money. And please tell your friends too. So, thanks so much. How much time do I have?
8 minutes.
I have 8 minutes left, so I was hoping that I'd have a little time for a Q&A. So I will open that on up. Thanks.
Who has a question for John?
I got a question for you, John. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Yeah.
Appreciate you showing the areas where you want to focus, including the healthcare and gun control, some of the bigger national issues. What are some of the issues that you have identified that are maybe specific to House District 24, and what are your approach towards those?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So one of them would be, of course, that on-campus childcare for community colleges. We have a ton of community colleges. We have Brookhaven, we have TCC, we have the Dallas Community College group. So that right there would have a very large impact on this district. But something that we face on a regular basis, how many people like traffic? How many people spend a lot of time in traffic? Mike loves traffic, yeah. Well, we do. A lot of us spend a lot of time in traffic. I am somewhat fortunate. I happen to live across the street from the TRE, and so I can walk on over to that. We need more mass transit in this area, and we can use that by working with state and local governments along with the federal government. So the TX rail. How many people know what the TX rail is or where? Okay, very good. Yeah. So really cool. It just opened, what, in January, December, January? January. And it runs now from DFW Airport to downtown Grapevine and then all the way down to the stockyards. Half of that was funded with federal money. So infrastructure is a big push for this area. That is something that I think is unique to this specific congressional district. We need more and more. We've seen growth with DART, we've seen growth with TX rail and those, and I think we need to continue that.
Thank you.
Yep.
My question was just about your position on the healthcare. There's so many different healthcare plans being proposed. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I spent 3.5 years on the ACA, using the ACA for my my coverage. I was very fortunate that that was around. So my number one goal is that we don't go backwards. We have got to defend the ACA. That is really, really important. We've seen just in the past couple of days that that is still under attack. So the first thing I would do is to shore up the ACA. When it comes down to it, as a freshman in Congress, you're not going to be the one driving the conversation on which plan. We're going to get a choice of a public option to go along with ACA to shore that up. We're going to get an option for Medicare for America, like Jean Shaheen and Beto O'Rourke are pushing for, or we're going to get a Medicare for all kind of proposal. We're going to get one shot at it. I will vote for any of those because every single one of those is better, covers more people, make sure that people are not going bankrupt, make sure that people are not dying. So as far as that part, that's what I'll vote for. After that though, we've got to fix the full system. All of those focus on the insurance piece, but it doesn't address the cost of prescription drugs, for example. On prescription drugs, we can do what Amy Klobuchar has been pushing and many, many others, including Bernie and even some Republicans in the past, and that is allowing people to buy across international borders. Right now I have a medication for, I have asthma, and I have a medication that I take monthly. It's $250 out of pocket every month, so that's $3,000 a year. And with high deductibles, that means I really pay for a lot of that. And I'm sure a lot of you have a medication that you can think of that's like that. I can get that exact same one from Canada, from Mexico, from France, from England, from wherever, for $50 a month.
Wow.
I could save myself $2,400 a year by doing that, but that would be illegal. Now right now, Customs kind of looks the other way if it's a 90-day prescription and it's for personal use and all that. But that can change at any time. We need to change the law to allow people to to buy across international borders. That will increase competition. We have no competition in the United States when it comes to pharmaceuticals. So that would be another step that I would do on top of that, as well as making sure that Medicare starts to pay for an appropriate number of residency programs. Most people don't know that Medicare and Medicaid fund the majority of residency programs. So after somebody finishes med school, they have to go do a residency so they can practice on their own. Well, the number that Medicare and Medicaid will fund got capped in 1997. So it was based on 1997 numbers, and we have a few more people today than we did in 1997. So we need to lift that cap so that we can properly fund those, so that when people get out of med school, they can go do a residency, they can go out and help all of us. 1 minute.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
That's 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Trying to take minutes away. Yes. Say that again?
The border?
The border. Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I grew up in El Paso, so I'm fairly familiar. My house did back up to the Rio Grande. So when I hear a lot of this, a lot of the negativity surrounding the border, I've seen what happens when you have immigration in an area. And it was great. In fact, El Paso, if anything, is maybe a little boring, but it's incredibly safe. It's one of the safest cities in the nation. It has been for 20 years. And so my position on the border is that we need to improve the immigration system. We have people who are waiting over a decade to get through the legal system. We need to speed that up. We also have got to address, when I saw the pictures from Clint, Texas, I used to spend time with Clint. Clint was down the road from where I grew up. That's not the community, that's not the kind of things that we have going on in that community. Those aren't the values of that community. We have got to make sure that we are properly processing people who are coming in and requesting asylum. We need to get through that quickly so that people can, 2 minutes, now my 2 minutes. All right. So that people can get into the United States if they go through that process and become contributing members of society.
One quick question.
Here, quick one. So I'd like all the candidates to ask this, just to be fair. What's the highest, you're running for Congress.
Yes.
What is the highest office you've been elected to as of today?
As of today, it would be president of my HOA. There you go. Yeah.
We have about 1 minute.
Yes,
1
quick one.
minute.
So we're in kind of a swing district here. When you run, are you going to be, is it your view that this is an election of getting out the base, or is it appealing to the middle? Don't say both. I mean, how are you going to run? Are you going to run, Green New Deal? There's a lot of things that are being pushed, or, carbon tax. And how are you going to run?
Okay, so a lot in that. There's a lot to unpack.
40 seconds.
That is my entire plan. So it is online, so I'm very, very detailed on exactly those so I don't hide any of that. I take a pragmatic approach. So I'm a scientist. For me, it's whatever works. When I look at the Green New Deal, I love the focus of the Green New Deal. We've got to do something, and we've got to do it fast. There are certain aspects of it that I disagree with, or at least aspects that it's not part of the Green New Deal, but that people like AOC have talked about, say cutting nuclear, for example. Cutting nuclear would cut 2/3 of all of our non-carbon producing electricity in the United States. That would be a bad thing. So in that case, so I'm very for the Green New Deal, but there are certain things that I would change because my goal is to make sure that we reduce carbon, we reduce other pollutants in the air that are making us sick, that are increasing asthma rates and other things along those lines. To give you that example. So it's pragmatic. And that's my time. Thanks for the office.